start doing that now before I forget. And what I will aim to do is to give you a lot of information for an hour. And then at the end of the hour, I'll unmute and you guys can ask questions. Now, you got an email a few minutes ago that had a form that I asked you guys to fill in. Please fill that in because as I am presenting, I try and incorporate questions people are asking on the form so that you can really get some benefit from the webinar. The worst thing is to show up at a webinar, get half of what you really wanted to know. So I do tailor and morph my webinars to meet your needs. So you will see that in the email I emailed out a few minutes ago, there's a link. Fill that in for me so that as I am going, I can incorporate your questions in the webinar so you get the most value. So my name is Gertrude Mache. I am here in beautiful Wellington, New Zealand, originally from Zimbabwe. And I've been in New Zealand for the last, 20 years. It's quite scary to say that. And today's webinar, as you know, is called Speaking from the Heart and How to Land Your First TED Talk. And my passion is really to empower other people to get on the TED platform because it totally changed my life. It changed my speaking career. So before I get started, I'm just going to ask you guys to mute yourselves while I'm speaking. And when we get to the point where you have the Q&A session, you can unmute when you're speaking so we don't have any background noise. Try not to have any distractions. If you've got any dogs, any cats, any wives, any husbands in the background, tell them to leave you alone for an hour so that you can really get the most benefit from today's webinar. So COVID-19 has presented humanity with a very amazing gift. The Chinese say that, write the word crisis with these two symbols. The first symbol stands for danger. The second symbol stands for opportunity. And there is a magical opportunity that is happening right across the world right now for anybody who has a voice, anybody who's a speaker, and is using this beautiful platform called the internet to connect and to build their speaking careers. And I'll be sharing with you tonight what I have done for myself, my career, how getting on the TED platform totally transformed everything from my credibility as a speaker. My speaking fee went up. There is something magical that happens when you get on TED.com. So I'm going to be sharing with you some of my results as well. So I was one of those little girls who my mother said that I learned to talk before I walked. I was punished for speaking. Speaking was my passion. I would be that little girl at the back of the classroom yakking all the time. What seemed to be my biggest weakness became my biggest strength. And I managed to turn this into a career in a very, very magical way. I started speaking when I was in high school. I was in drama, theater, and my dad had a very strange way of helping me to build my confidence. During my school holidays from the age of 14, 15, my father would put me on a bus and send me to the city. So I grew up in a very small town in what was then Rhodesia. We had racial segregation, blacks and whites didn't mix. And my dad realized that his kids needed to build confidence to stand up in front of white people and speak. He would say that the corporate world is white, go to the city, apply for jobs, do not take the jobs. And it turned out to be a competition between me and my sister. Every holiday, we were bused to the city, we would apply for jobs and not take them, and come back home and see who got the most job offers. So that's really where my speaking started, was applying for jobs just to build the self-confidence. And it really changed the rest of my life. So you could have been born with a gift to speak, or you are developing that gift now for a very specific reason because you've got a message to share and you need some coaching, some mentoring, some guidance on how to change the trajectory of your career, for example, whatever that reason is, there are ways and skills that you can acquire to help you do that. And I'm hoping that by the end of today's presentation, you're going to get a feel of who I am, what I bring to the table to help people create 6-7-figure businesses by speaking. So I have a coaching business. What you will get today is just a sliver of the kind of help that I give people to turn their lives around with their speaking. So imagine for a moment if a year from now, your monthly salary or your annual salary became your monthly income. That's what you can do if you have a speaking career. And getting on TED.com is just a part of what you can do to help you get there. When I moved to New Zealand 20 years ago, I decided to self-publish a book. And I self-published this book as a way to support the orphaned children in my immediate family in Zimbabwe. So COVID-19 is my second pandemic. I survived the first pandemic in one of the poorest countries in the world. I started seeing family, friends dying at the age of 16, 17. And the scenes that I'm watching now in New York and in Spain, the mass burials, is something that I lived through 20 years ago. People were dying like flies in Africa because of the AIDS pandemic. There was no medication. And I was impacted greatly because my grandmother had 11 children. She had 34 grandchildren. 19 of my first cousins died of HIV-related diseases, including my youngest brother. So when I moved to New Zealand, we had 49 orphaned kids on my side of the family alone, another 40 on my ex-husband's side, 89 kids. I had 3 children of my own, and we had just moved to a new country. We had no money, but I wanted to find a way to reach back to Africa and help the children in my extended family. And I heard about self-publishing of books. I did a few courses, learned how to self-publish, and I published a memoir, which was my journey from New Zealand. I'm from Zimbabwe to New Zealand. I then started selling that book as a way to raise money. I would look for free speaking opportunities from Rotary clubs, Lions clubs, Probus clubs, any social networking group that was meeting and needed a guest speaker. I would put myself forward and speak for free. And that's when I discovered that you can make a lot of money speaking for free. A lot of speakers wait to get a paid speaking opportunity, and they miss the opportunities when you speak for free. So I'll be sharing a little bit about the things that I've done in that world. And before I knew it, I was speaking 3-4 times a week. I was making $3,500 every single month by selling my book, just by selling 100 copies of my book. And that money went back to Africa to pay for school fees. I created a foundation and ended up sponsoring 550 children's education in the last 20 years. And the book selling gave me confidence. I did it when I was uncomfortable doing it, but I got so good at sharing the story and the vision behind what I was doing, it became second nature. And people started passing my business cards to event planners. Before I knew it, I'm being hired to speak in the United States, in the UK, all over Australia, all over New Zealand, and stop working full time. And that's what I've been doing for the last 20 years. Now, why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you because I didn't plan to be a speaker. It literally fell in my lap, and I started investing in myself. I started getting coaching. I started looking for mentors, people who could help me find the shortcuts to really make this a successful career. I've been to 56 countries in the last 20 years, and I can't tell you how many cities in between. I have literally lived in aeroplanes going back and forth between here to just every corner of the globe, and it has been absolutely fascinating. My turning point came when I spoke on the TED.com website. It was an event here in Wellington. I had no preparation. The ex-mayor of Wellington had heard me speak at a Race Relations Day event. And I had shared a poem that opens my book. And she came up to me and asked me where the poem was from. I told her I was a writer and I was publishing a book. And she ended up launching my book in the mayor's chambers in Wellington City Council. And her endorsement literally created the trajectory of my life, because I could go to Wellington City Council, phone the mayor from downstairs and say, "Hi, Carrie, I'm downstairs. Could I come up and have a cup of tea?" And we became friends. And she opened up a lot of doors for me here in New Zealand. But the other thing it did is, once my video got on the TED.com website, it opened up the world. Being a TED speaker gives you credibility. It makes people take you seriously as a speaker. You could do a TED event in a room full of 5 people. It actually doesn't matter how many people are in the room, because the magic happens when that video goes on the TED.com website. That's when you're speaking to millions. So you can see today's webinar, I have 7 people on this call. Every single time I have an opportunity to speak, I deliver as if I am delivering to hundreds, thousands of people, because I'm recording this video. It's going to go on YouTube. It's going to be tagged with the keywords that help people find me. So every single time you get an opportunity to speak, whether you're doing a webinar, whether you're doing an online summit, whether you're speaking in public, make sure that you capture the videos. Every single video of you speaking, make sure you record it, make sure you create your own YouTube channel and post those videos. I started getting found by people like the Rooney family. I don't know if any of you know American football. There is a football team in Pittsburgh called the Steelers, and it is owned by a billionaire family called the Rooneys. And Mrs. Rooney found me through YouTube, through my YouTube videos and my YouTube channel. She was a professor at a private university, and she created a position when she retired called the Rooney International Scholar. And they look for poets, philosophers, musicians, interesting people to come to this private university in Pittsburgh to lecture for 6 months. They paid me 10,000 US dollars a month to lecture 2 hours a week. I had a fully furnished 5-bedroomed house. I had a car. I had all kinds of allowances to just do what I wanted and be creative while I was there. And it opened up the academic world to me. So when I wrote my first book, it's called Born on the Continent Ubuntu. Ubuntu Ngamuntu Ngabantu is an African philosophy that says a person is a person through other people. In Africa, we try to explain the condition of being human. We believe that there is no you, there is no me, there is only we. That the human race is like an organism. We are one. And everything that we do impacts on the other. And right now, COVID-19 has really illustrated that. We are literally a breath away from affecting or infecting each other on the planet. Auckland is now going through a second infection. I've heard there's now 3 cases in Auckland. Last infections came through that container that came from the US. So we're sitting so far away from the United States, but they're still able to impact us. And because this Ubuntu philosophy has not got a lot of literature, a lot of people will Google the word Ubuntu and they will find Linux software. Linux based the software on this philosophy and never really acknowledged it. So a lot of IT geeks think that Ubuntu is an operating system, which it is, but the operating system's principles originated from this African philosophy. So it's a misappropriation of our content. And I knew there wasn't a lot of books written about it. So I wove my personal story into this African philosophy and accidentally branded myself as the Ubuntu expert. I get found by universities because they're now teaching Ubuntu in social anthropology. I morphed into an academic speaker just by infusing this philosophy in my life story. Does that make sense? Now, I'm telling you this because all three of my TED Talks are all about the same subject. They're all about Ubuntu. It's not the same presentation, though. I try to explain it from different perspectives in each one. And just before COVID-19, I was working on a new TED Talk, and I didn't have a title, but the title was something like, imagine for a moment if we could solve the world's problems like our blood heals wounds. What I was trying to say is that if humanity is one, if we are an organism, if you cut your finger and you start to bleed, your white blood cells will rush to that point to heal it. In a week's time, you can't even see the scar. And that's how we should be responding to each other in the world. So that if there's an earthquake in Haiti, if the 7 billion people on this planet gave $1 to Haiti, we could restore that country in one day. The world's problems are not that big, but we're all living in a sense of not enoughness, and we're not connecting enough. And in Africa, we are so connected in terms of how we live. You will never not say hi to your next door neighbor. You will never not talk to a stranger when you're standing at a bus stop. You strike conversations. If you're in a queue in the bank, that's just a way of living in Africa. And I didn't realize it until I left Africa and moved to the West. And I was living in London, and people would look right through me like I didn't exist. So that was the other reason why I wanted to share the Ubuntu philosophy out of Africa and spread this idea or this way of being. So that has become my message. And I explain it from different perspectives every single time. So do take the time to watch my 3 TED Talks. The very first one is the one that was filmed in Wellington. It was very rough. I made the mistake of mentioning my book. If you're an author, do not talk about your book. TED organizers hate it because it sounds as if you wanted to get on TED to promote a book. So that is a no-no. There were so many things that I did wrong. What I did do right is I started off with an element of surprise. So when you get on that stage, do something completely different. I started sitting in the audience. The MC was on stage and he introduced me. And instead of walking up on stage from the wings like everybody else, I walked in from the audience. So people were looking around and wondering what had happened to the speaker. And I actually started speaking from the audience, which was really different. The other thing I did differently is that I was not wearing any shoes. So I became the barefooted speaker for a very specific reason. I had been invited to do a presentation at a conference I was in Mexico City, and Spanish and my mother tongue, I speak a language called Shona. Phonetically, it sounds like Spanish. I can read Spanish like somebody who speaks Spanish, but I don't understand the language. So I got my friends to translate the opening paragraph of my presentation into Spanish. And from the airport to the venue, she corrected a few things. And I got up in front of 3,000 people and started speaking. And then the PowerPoint and my computer refused to work. Do not rely on technology if you are speaking, and especially on TED. And I remember standing there thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? And I was going into my head. Then I just calmed down and I closed my eyes and I just looked for guidance. And this voice in my head said, take off your shoes. So I took off my shoes. I was wearing very high heels, and it really helped me ground myself. It helped me earth myself. And I just thought to myself, how may I serve? How may I be of service to the people who've come to this event? And I just got up and I told my story from the heart. And that's where my coaching program was born, Speaking from the Heart. I delivered the most authentic presentation I have ever given, to a point where I cannot tell you what I said. It was like something took over my body. And at the end of the speech, I was selling my books, and this man came up to me, bought 15 copies of my book, and he said, Gertrude, do you mind if I hug you? I never cry when I hear speakers. You move me to tears. And this man put his arms around me and he hugged me. And there was an electrical charge that zapped us. It was like static. And he said to me, Gertrude, do you realize that you channel when you speak? And I'm like, oh, no, I don't do that. And he said, you channel that presentation. And the hair on his chest was standing like this. The hair on his arms was like, it was so creepy. And he told me to go onto the Heart Math Foundation's website. And I encourage all of you to do this. That is when I learned the power of using the human heart to communicate and to speak. The human heart has got a magnetic field that spans the length of your arms. And when we are speaking, when we are communicating, that vibration goes out to people around you. Now, for people who know how to use their hearts to speak, it is absolutely powerful how you can connect and communicate with people to a point where it transcends gender, race, religion, ethnicity. It breaks down every single barrier, and you're able to get through to all of the people who are listening to you present. And so I did a bit of study online with the Heart Math Foundation, and I learned how to use my heart. A lot of people go for speakers training. They join organizations like Toastmasters, and you can be taught to be technically perfect in speaking, but they don't teach you how to use your emotional intelligence to deliver. And speaking from the heart can definitely do that for you. So I started studying. I started looking at the best orators in the world: Martin Luther King, JFK, Nelson Mandela, Gandhi. And there is a structure, a secret structure to the best talks in the world. There's actually a video called The Secret Structure of Great Talks on TED.com's website. It was done by a researcher, and she mapped out the best speeches in a graph and found the rhythm that makes these speeches great. If you listen to Martin Luther King's speech, the I Have a Dream speech, he starts at the bottom and talks about what is the condition of African Americans during the civil rights movement. He then takes us up the graph and talks about what could be, the dream. He then lets you imagine this dream, and then he brings you back to reality of what is. And he makes you sad by understanding the condition of Black Americans during the civil rights movement. And then he goes back to the dream again. So you can literally map your speech on a graph and take people through an emotional arch of emotions, depending on what it is that you are delivering. And it's called, building your timeline. I encourage you to watch this TED Talk. It's called The Secret Structure of Great Talks on TED.com's website. It will really help you have an inkling of how to craft your speech. And we'll do a little exercise at the end where I can show you how to do that as well. So speaking from the heart helps you find the events and opportunities, how to pitch yourself as a speaker. When you are pitching yourself to TED, you have to make sure that your presentation is pitched to the theme of that event. A lot of people apply for TED events without doing their research. They don't even know what the theme is. Then they pitch their presentation and they're rejected. And it's not because your presentation wasn't good, it's because you didn't pitch it to their needs. So it's not about you, it's not about your talk, it's about the TED organizers and what they are looking for. I want to show you how to gain credibility online and offline. Your online credibility comes with this collection or the body of videos that people can watch and see you actually speaking. They say that when TED organizers are looking for speakers, they are looking for a visual bite. So that means how you look. And they are looking for a sound bite. They want to hear what you sound like. Some people don't think it's that important to look good when you're speaking. I say it's absolutely imperative. As a speaker, you have to think of yourself as a product. You have to think about your personal branding and how you're going to show up and how you're going to show up and be different. So I take my clients through a personal branding workshop where we figure out what is your brand as a speaker? How can we give you an edge? How can we make you different? Because there's so many people speaking at the moment. So if I said the word Coca-Cola and you closed your eyes, the colors red, black, white show up because Coca-Cola has used those three colors for their branding. If I say Nike, it's the tick sign. If I say Apple, it's again a symbol of an apple with a bite. So we have to create something like that for you. When I was working on my branding, I realized that my biggest point of difference living in Australasia is that I'm Black and I'm female. I use my ethnicity as my biggest point of difference. That is why I get paid 15, 25,000 US dollars to speak. So when I was branding myself, I decided three things. I want you guys to ask your families, your friends, people who know you, and say to them, what three words best describe me as a person? The three words that I got came from one of my clients. She wrote a beautiful testimonial and said something like, Gertrude is a vibrant bundle of African energy. And I pulled out the word African first, vibrant is second, and energy. The African part of my brand means whenever I show up to speak, I am dressed in my traditional African clothes. You can't mistake where I'm from. I didn't want people to think that I was African American or Caribbean or someone of African descent. I wanted them to say, I saw this amazing speaker. She's African. She lives in New Zealand. So that's number one. Number two, I can't run away from this chocolate brown skin. I am African. I can't run away from it. So if you're somebody of a different ethnic background, wherever you're living, use your ethnicity to give you an edge as well. If you have a heritage that you relate to, your ancestors could have come from Ireland and you're living in Australia or New Zealand, use your origins to give you an edge and a point of difference. Does that make sense? So that's really important for me. The second thing that I pulled out of this testimonial was the word vibrant. So I use extremely vibrant colors for my branding. You will never see me wearing black unless I'm going to a funeral. If I am wearing a black shirt, there's going to be something with vibrant colors to break it. So all of my colors are very earthy. They're very African, but bright, vibrant colors, because vibrant colors help me to lift my spirit and my mood. And I know that it transfers to other people as well. The last thing I pulled out of the vibrant bundle of African energy was the word energy. So depending on who you are, I am a very energetic speaker. If I am going to a conference and they ask me if I want to use a mic, I always insist that I need a lapel mic or one of those mics that you put on your ear. If you give me a mic to hold, I use my hands and I could hit somebody with the mic. So I infuse a lot of energy, and it's just who I am. My mother used to say that I was ADD and I was never medicated. So I was one of those little kids who was just running around all the time. And I bring that energy to the stage. I don't stand behind a podium. I walk around. I even infuse my African dance in my speeches sometimes and get the audience to get up and wiggle their bums and dance. So energy for me is really important. Now, that's just a little aspect of how to build your brand. It's a very small fraction of it. But I take all of my speakers through a personal branding workshop. We figure out a lot of things about your branding. We create your branding style guide. We help you create a website that represents that brand. And then we show you how to have brand consistency throughout the internet. So the other thing that TED organizers do is they go online, they Google your name. Now we're going to do a little exercise. I want you to go into the chat and go onto Google first, type in my name, Gertrude Mache, make sure that you misspell Gertrude, and type in the chat how many references you find to my name, and then click on Google Images and tell me how many images you find there as well. Just quickly do that. Now, everything I have done in terms of creating an online presence has been deliberate. It's not by mistake that you're going to find thousands of references to my name and thousands of photographs of me. Just type in the chat what you found so far. Now, you can do the same in terms of creating your online presence. That's what's called your digital footprint. So when I get invited to speak at an event, I know they're going to post my bio, they're going to post my photograph on their website. If I'm doing a podcast, I give the podcast organizer my name and my bio. So podcasting is speaking. If I do a radio show, same thing. Anywhere where you are going to get people who are referencing to you, you need to make sure that you optimize the content you give them with your name. So Google is a search engine that does not see images. Google can only see pictures. So what I mean, Rachel, is go into Google. You can unmute and say that. Unmute, Rachel. This is very...
Okay, got it. Look, so when you go in there, I put your name in wrong and it comes up with, did you mean? And then it spells it properly. And so then I clicked on that and then there's like pages.
Yes. So I'm an African woman with a misspelled German name, which again gives me a bit of an edge. There's an R missing in Gertrude. So it helps me again have that point of difference. And now there's so many references to Gertrude Mache, Google actually picks up and points people in the right direction. Does that make sense? Now, when you're giving people your photograph, you have to make sure that you change the file name. So when you take a picture on your phone, it normally generates those random numbers. Make sure that you rename the file name with your name before you pass it on to someone. That's why you're able to see thousands of photographs of Gertrude Mache online. And if you look at me, you can see the branding. There is no mistaking what continent I'm from. I'm dressed in my traditional African gear, and that's the visual bite that I give TED organizers, event planners. So when we go through the application process that I will take you through for TED, when they ask you for photos, don't give them one photograph. I give them a Google Drive with multiple pictures so they can choose which one they like. because there could be one image that really ties into the theme that they pick that you might have missed. So never give them one image. So that's all about creating your credibility and creating your digital footprint. I also show people how to advertise online, how to market and promote yourself, how to create your own events. Like this event is a free webinar, but I've already told you that I host these webinars and I share people about my coaching program. Every single time I do one of these webinars, I make no less than 15 to 25,000 US dollars a night. I do 3 of them every single month. Facebook advertising right now is at an all-time low. For those of you who didn't know. And when you post something on Facebook and you boost it with an ad, it shows up on Instagram. So you're kind of getting it on both platforms. So take advantage of what's happening on Facebook right now, creating your own events. I show people how to share their vision and how to lead your own tribe. When you can create events that create a following around your ideas, then you're really winning with the speaking game. So I have created a platform called the HerStory Circle. It is a platform for female speakers. 25% of our speakers are male. And I started it last year in July, just before all of this COVID nonsense started. Ended up having events in Las Vegas, here in Wellington, in Sydney. I had an event in Norway, in London, in New York, in Brisbane, in Auckland, in Hamilton. 10 events in less than 6 months with 100 speakers at every single event. So I have created a massive following by creating my own events and inviting people to speak. And people come and pay to speak on my platform. They pay to speak because I know that I coach and mentor people to get on TED. Does that make sense? So I have made more money teaching people to do what I do than to do what I do. So don't be afraid to teach. If you are good at speaking, learn to train other people. There's a lot of money in training because people will come to you to be trained so they're more confident at work. Some people come to me for training so they're more confident just in their relationships. Some people want to get on TED and create their own speaking events. So training, teaching is really imperative. So I'm going to show you how to impress TED event planners and organizers. I'm going to take you through the application process. But before we do that, I want you to think about who is your target market, who is your avatar, who is the ideal person for your content before we even start going down the application process. Please type in the chat, who do you think your avatar is? I'll share with you who my avatar is so it might spark some ideas. When I started coaching people, I had a client. Her name was Tuva Vine. She was based in Australia. This woman was 57 years old, had gone through a divorce, sold everything she owned, moved to China to teach English. And she wanted to write a book. She wanted to be a speaker. She wasn't good at writing. I offer a ghostwriting service, and I charge $25,000 to ghostwrite books for people. We ended up ghostwriting 3 books and creating a whole coaching program for her. And she paid without even blinking. One person. I probably made about $150,000 in the 2 years that I worked with Tuva Vine. What I learned with working with this woman is that women over the age of 50 have got the stories. They have the time, they have the money to focus on themselves. They don't have to refer to a husband or a spouse for permission. They don't have little children who are demanding of their time when you're coaching them. They are the best demographic. But the biggest thing I learned is that because they see the value that I bring in transforming their lives, they bring their daughters to me and their granddaughters. So I still get the younger demographic through the older women that I coach. Does that make sense? So when I pitch my ads on Facebook, The narrower your target market is, the more impactful you're going to be with your ads. You don't waste money. You hit the mark. And then because Facebook is connected to Instagram, the younger women come in through Instagram organically. So who is your avatar? Can you just type in the chat? I want the age of the person. Are they male? Are they female? Because if you are pitching to men, your languaging is going to be completely different from when you're pitching to women. If you are talking to women under the age of 25, the message is going to be different from when you're pitching to a woman who's over 50. Does that make sense? So get clear, who is my avatar? Who am I speaking to? It also helps you when you are speaking on the TED.com website. So that if you're trying to create a following around your idea worth spreading, you are talking straight to the heart of that woman when she hears you speak, if she's over 50. So you will tailor your presentation to her. There is a 33% rule to selling anything in life. It could be your product, it could be your service, it could be your business. 33% of people will love you. They will adore you. They will worship the ground you walk on. 33% of people will hate you. They just think, who is this woman? What is she trying to do? I'm not interested. And then 33% of people are just indifferent. So never cast a net that is too wide. Narrow it down. Get really clear who you're speaking to. It helps you write your copy in a very succinct way. So, the process. My coaching works really well for people who have a story to share, people who have an idea worth spreading, people who are trying to develop a process in life or in business and want to share this with the world and reach other people. I work with change makers. I work with visionaries who are trying to build a better future for their kids. I work with tribal leaders, people who are trying to identify and grow their tribes online. And I mostly work with social entrepreneurs, people who are trying to make a difference in the world while they're making an income for themselves, but they want to make money so they can help other people as well. Those are the people that I work with. Those are the people who really light me up and make it worthwhile for me. My coaching is tailored for your needs, your very specific needs. It's been tried and tested. I will share some of my testimonials from my clients, and you saw some already on my landing page. It's very interactive. You get feedback and you're not on your own. You're put in a group as well. So I have a community where people are supporting each other all the time. Even if I'm not there, you will always have support. Because especially if you're transitioning and you're trying to change your life, you want to make sure that you do surround yourself with people who are going to support your dreams. Sometimes your husband, your spouse, your family, your friends are the worst people to talk to when you're going through a transition. You want to make sure that you have people who can prop you up. Now, another question for you guys. If you are watching a game of soccer, who sees most of the game? The players or the spectators? Just type in the chat. Who do you think sees most of the game? Thank you, Rachel. The spectators. Riz, what do you think? Marie, the spectators. Brenda. Riz is the same. Brenda says the players. Femi, what do you think? I really want you guys to participate so you get the most out of this. Dr. Angels, Wilson, welcome. Who do you think sees most of the game? Susanna. Femi says the spectators. Well, I've got to say, Brenda, you are the winner. If you can imagine that life is like a game of soccer, in the time that 24 players are on a court playing a game of soccer, The players are the ones who see the ball. They see it coming, they will kick it, and they will score. And this is an analogy for life. It's an analogy for you guys to really think about how you want to up your game and play this speaker's game to the full. It's up to you. It's up to you how far you want to earn. If you are a speaker, you can literally write your own paycheck. And I'm hoping that we're going to get there in the end. So now it's time for you to take out your pens and paper and write down some information. I am going to share this video with you as well. So if you're better at listening, rather listen. But I'm going to take you through the TED application process and what they're looking for. And then we will catch up and have a little bit of a session and a break. They'll ask you for the basics. The form is almost identical on every single TED website you're going to go on. They ask you for your basics, your name, your age. They'll ask you for your online presence. Now, there was a form that was emailed out where I wanted you guys to fill out so I can get an idea of who you are. I think only 3 people filled out that form, which was a real pity. But on that form, I did an audit of all of the people who did respond. I audited their online presence. It's really important that if you're going to put the name of your website, it's an active website. If it's a blog, it's an active blog. If you give them a link to your Facebook page, make sure that you're active on Facebook. It shouldn't be any static web presence. You're better off leaving it out and just directing them to a platform where you are actually active. Does that make sense? I had a young man who gave me his website yesterday. And when I went onto the website, none of his pictures are downloading. So just making sure that your website looks professional is really important. The branding. When we go through a personal branding workshop, we make sure that we have what's called brand consistency, that you're showing up on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram with the same branding material and message. So your colors have to be the same. Your logo has to be the same. That brand consistency really shows that you're professional. So when you're filling out what links you're going to share with the TED organizers, make sure you're active. They'll ask you about the organizations you're involved in. If you don't own your own company, put companies that you have worked with before, companies that you belong to, associations. If you're a Rotarian, if you're in the Lions Club, if you've volunteered for any organizations, it shows the breadth of the types of organizations you've worked with. I've already talked about the photographs. Give them a Google Drive with more than one photo. They want a list of all of your speaking videos. So make sure, if you haven't been doing it already, start capturing every single speech you have ever given. Your address, your email, your phone number, that's very straightforward. Your industry or occupation. So I call myself an inspirational speaker, author, and a serial social entrepreneur. So those are keywords that really say a lot about me as a person. Your bio should be no more than 250 words, but always make sure that you have 3 bios. One bio should be 50 words. The next should be 250. The next should be 450. It could be different. And having 3 bios that really speak to who you are is important, because when you start pitching yourself to different events, there's always a limitation on how many words you can use. They then ask for you, what is your proposed idea? This is now where in one paragraph, you are supposed to synthesize your idea worth spreading. I was working on a new application, and I said my proposed idea is, when we cut ourselves, every white blood cell in our body rushes to the site of injury to help it heal. As human beings, we should be responding to the problems in the world, the way that white blood cells respond to the body, swiftly, selfishly, and in unity. Ubuntu is the African idea that a person is a person through other people. So I then go into my Ubuntu spiel. I'm going to share with you this application. Really start thinking, how can I explain my idea worth spreading in just a few words? The next thing they'll ask you is, why does this idea matter to you? And why are you so passionate about it? Now, your passion has to be shown in words and in action. In words, in terms of how you're going to answer this question. In action, in terms of them seeing you delivering several presentations with the same message. The next thing they will ask is, how is this a new idea? My idea is not new. The Ubuntu philosophy has existed for centuries, for generations, passed down through storytelling from one family to the other. So I said, my idea is not worth spreading. What is new about it is that I'm bringing it to mainstream cultures. So your idea doesn't have to be new. You could have watched another TED Talk with an idea that's similar to you and you're inspired to do more speaking around it. It doesn't have to be a new idea. They then ask you, what is the proposed title of the talk? Now, this is very, very important. The title of your talk is similar to the title of a book. It has to be captivating. It has to contain the keywords that describe your content. So I would recommend that you go onto the TED.com website, type in the keywords of your subject matter, and see other TED speakers and how they've put their titles together. I would go onto the Amazon website and look for books with similar titles, book titles. They say that success leaves clues. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. Rather go and see what other people have done and model from that. And you can have a TED Talk with the same title as other people's TED Talks. It doesn't matter, because nobody owns the title of a book or a presentation or a speech. The difference is in how you will deliver that presentation. I also go onto websites that have got inspiring quotes. Quotes are really good as a presentation title. The next thing they'll ask you is to outline the talk. They ask you to outline the beginning, the middle, and the end. And this is now where I can explain to you what is called the arch of a story. Every story has got a beginning, a middle, and an end. And every story needs to be captivating in the middle, in the beginning, where you're setting people up as to what you're going to be talking about. In the middle is your confrontation. It's now the action, the things that are going to go up and down as you give your presentation. And the end is the resolution. The last part of your presentation should be a call to action. You have to give your audience 3 things they can do when they get home to spread your idea. 3 tools that they can implement to overcome an illness, if you're talking about curing an illness. So again, watch the TED Talks that have got millions of views. I live and breathe TED. I watch 3 TED Talks a day. First thing in the morning when I wake up, during my lunch break, before I go to sleep, I'm always on TED looking for inspiration. So go onto TED and see how other people are doing it. And remember, when you are giving a presentation in person, you can't go over 18 minutes if you want to get on the TED.com website. If you go over by a second, your video will not see the light of day. So make sure that you stay under 18 minutes. So when I coach people to speak, I coach them to do a 2-minute audition video, because you have to pitch with an audition video. I coach them to do a 5-minute video, a 10-minute video, and a 15-minute video. Because sometimes what could happen is the TED organizers might just have a slot for a 5-minute video. Use that 5 minutes. I have seen people who have done 5-minute videos that are so inspiring, it just blows you away what can be said in 5 minutes. I've seen people do 10-minute videos that have gone viral. So learn to shorten your presentations so you can slot into anyone. And when you are planning for an 18-minute presentation, you work on a 15-minute. Because when you're presenting live, you're going to pause when people laugh. You're going to pause when you get audience reactions. Sometimes you make mistakes. And if you plan and time your presentation to 18 minutes and you just go on stage and start speaking, you're going to end up with a 25-minute presentation. So always underestimate the time so that you don't go over time. They will ask you for a 2-minute audition video. In the document, I'll email you. My 2-minute video is there so you can see how I pitched my idea. The next question is, what are the implications of your idea? In other words, what will or will not happen if people do not know about your idea? How is it going to impact the world? What is the call to action? So that's where you have to get really clear. I say that the Ubuntu practice emphasizes on empathy and compassion. And that is the way that human beings are going to survive as a race. And connection is a superpower that every single human being has. Everybody is craving connection, and especially now with COVID-19. And what I did with my second TED Talk, when I got myself a mentor and a coach, I managed to use the technical jargon of IT. So my second TED Talk is called Ubuntu 2.0. I went back to using IT jargon. Ubuntu is an operating system. And at the end, my call to action is to install the Ubuntu philosophy is very simple. You put your family first, your community next. If you have something to spare, do something somewhere else in the world. 3 very simple steps that people can do to implement the Ubuntu philosophy. Does that make sense? So you have to really dumb it down, make it simple, make it easy for them to spread it. The next thing they ask is, how has this nominee impacted the world? This is now where you literally list all of the things you have ever done in your life. Don't leave anything out. If you volunteered for an organization, put it down. Why are you the right person to speak on this topic? I simply explained that Ubuntu is a way of life. Any African person knows this philosophy because it's just a way of being. And because I'm African, I'm an authority on that subject. So how can you prove that you are an authority on yours? You could have written a book, then maybe you could mention your book while you're putting your application in. You could have developed a process and you can explain the research that you have done to make you an authority. The next question is, what do you want the audience's initial takeaway to be? Or how will your talk impact the world? So I've already explained a way that they can go and do it themselves. I want this idea to spread. They ask for your areas of importance, your childhood towns, your family's location, your frequent travel spots, your college town, just list those. They ask about a fun fact about you. And I always talk about that I'm an African woman with a misspelled German name. And what happens is when they interview you, these questions come up, and then I tell them the funny story of how I ended up with this misspelled German name, something quirky. So just type in the chat, one funny fact about you. Let's just share a little bit so I can drink some water. One funny fact, each of you just type that in the chat. The next thing that they will ask you is, what is your favorite talk and why? My favorite TED talk that I have ever watched is a talk called How to Start a Movement by Dennis Shivers. I watched that video, I took what he explained, and I started my own movement. So again, go on TED, look for the inspiration. Okay, Maria, you once met Samuel L. Jackson. Wow, love that. And you told him, I love you. Come on, ladies, keep on contributing. What is the funny fact about you? And gentlemen, of course, sorry. Okay, what is the next thing they're going to ask? What do you hope to learn out of the TED speaking experience? Or why is a TED Talk the right platform for you to share your idea? I simply said that TED is the right platform for me because I have an idea worth spreading. I said TED attracts out of the box thinkers who want to connect and who can connect with my message and help amplify it. I hope to learn how to work smart and not hard through the magical power of my voice and the internet as a broadcasting platform. And then I've also said that Ubuntu stems from Africa's oral history. So it seems only natural that I share this idea on a platform that is rooted in storytelling, speaking, and oration. So that's something that you need to find for yourselves. They also ask about your speaking experience, your professional, your academic, your personal speaking experience. Again, leave nothing out. I normally put the audience that came to that event, how many people were in the audience, so they can see the numbers of people you've spoken in front of as well. And then the last thing is they want links to all of your videos. So add those links in and make sure that they really get a clear and comprehensive idea of who you are when you are speaking in the world. So I'm going to stop talking for a little bit. We're going to have a 15-minute Q&A session. Unmute yourselves. I want some feedback from you. What is the one thing that you have got that has really made an impression so far? And any questions? Rachel, you can start. You are the first to unmute.
Okay, so you started off by saying that you did all those free talks. That made a big impression on me.
Okay. And also learning how to monetize those free talks.
With the book.
Yeah. When I started speaking in front of Rotary, I ended up being a Rotary speaker for their conferences. And my mentor for speaking was Mark Victor Hansen, the guy who wrote Chicken Soup of the Soul. I actually flew to California to do one of his workshops. And Mark put a line in my speech that has quadrupled my sales. He said, people need permission to buy multiple copies of books. He said, most speakers will say, I'm going to be at the back of the room selling my book, please buy a copy. And the line that he put in the end of my speech was, buy one for yourself, buy one for someone you love, buy one for someone who needs inspiring. It's NLP. You are suggesting that there are more people who could do with your content. I sell 10, 15 copies of my book. People buy it for their Christmas stockings. I spoke at a conference in Timaru in the South Island. For those of you who are not from New Zealand, Timaru is a tiny little town in the South Island. There were 200 Rotarians at a conference in Timaru. And I remembered that line. And I changed the line slightly. And I said, I know you've all come from all over New Zealand and some of your members from Rotary aren't here. Can I suggest that you buy a box of books? There's 28 books. You can on-sell the books to your members. I sold 17 boxes. One box was worth $980. I made $17,000 in Timaru, speaking at a Rotary conference with 200 people. So ways to learn how to sell. Thank you for sharing, Rachel.
Oh, thanks.
Marie, I'm just going to pick each of you. Say something so I can have a bit of a rest.
Thank you so much, Gertrude. It's really inspiring to hear from you, actually. I guess I didn't really know much about what to expect. I have been thinking about doing some talks because I've been doing a few little things. I'm just starting off in my kind of career, doing life coaching, yoga, meditation, things like that. And I'm trying to come up with like a program that's going to blend kind of thing. I'm trying to like blend my knowledge and being able to empower women, basically.
Okay.
And I know I have a bit of a gift of talking, but I've gained so much inspiration just from, it's a bit of a dream now to do a TED Talk. And,
well,
what to
I'll
expect.
tell you, what you have there is gold. I have a publishing company here in New Zealand. So when you're ready to publish, we need to talk. I am one of the few feminist publishing houses in the world. I only focus on nonfiction written by women. And I take women's books to the Frankfurt Book Fair every year. I show women how to repurpose their intellectual ideas. So you could have a business process. You could have a methodology that you've developed. You could end up selling the foreign rights of your book. So if you write a book in English, you can sell the rights in French and German and Italian. You get paid an average of 5 to 35,000 euro per language.
Wow.
You need to show them that you've built a platform. And a speaker's platform means how many people are following you on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. All of that is collateral that you use to sell your book.
Yeah.
I show people how to sell the movie rights. I'm a script writer. So a personal story can be turned into a movie. If you've written a children's book, you can create product. You can create your own toys. So it's all about, we've got this knowledge in our heads. How can we take that out? How can we repurpose it and create multiple products from the same thing? A physical book can be an audio book. It can be an ebook. There's so much that can be done. So I'm really glad that this has given you a few more ideas on where you can take your business.
Definitely. It's just, I feel like I'm just beginning. And because I have only a very, very small following yet, I don't feel qualified. Like you were talking about, what they look at. Has there been people that get chosen to do TED Talks that don't have a big following yet, but they have
nothing. I had no one when I got on TED the first time. And they are looking for those diamonds in the rough. They are looking for freshness. So don't let the fact that you haven't done it be a limitation. It's actually an advantage.
Okay.
They are constantly looking for fresh people who haven't been heard.
Cool.
And I'll be sharing how I coach, what I charge at the very end. I am now approved by the New Zealand government to mentor and coach people in business. So a lot of people have been suffering because of COVID. I got a COVID grant, and I'm now a provider that helps entrepreneurs in New Zealand make money. So I'll be sharing a little bit about that. You can apply for this grant. It's being offered to everyone in New Zealand.
I was just going to ask you, do you offer like scholarships, like to work with you? Do you, or
I will show you the way.
Okay.
I will show you a way. And also speaking opportunities right now, I am looking for speakers. We have an event called the HerStory Circle Summit. It's happening on the 28th of November to the 13th of December. The first 2 days are on New Zealand time zone. The next 7 days are in Australia. We have 1 day in Vietnam, 3 days in the UK and Europe, and 3 days in the US and Canada. And people can opt to speak on every single day if you want. So if you want to create the content that can give you that digital footprint, this is a way of doing it. I'll be sharing a little bit about that at the end as well. Thank you. Riz, tell me, what is your biggest take home? Give us some feedback. questions, anything that has come up for you?
Encourage.
Encouraging?
Yeah, it is very encouraging because I believe, as you said, like, everyone has a story, but encourage makes a difference. Like, we have to have the encourage to share and
Yes.
share the story in an effective way, impressive way, then we can get the result that we expect. So, yeah, I have a story to tell. I have been thinking about it for a long time now. But yeah, it just kind of probably I need a little bit push
Yes.
to step out of my, I can't say comfort zone, but just that kind of something that I don't know that constrains me to move forward. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the thing is, we all have to honor our stories. They say that the richest places in the world are graveyards because they are full of people who had the most brilliant stories, the most amazing ideas, and they never had the courage to share them.
Yeah.
And a lot of women, we minimize our experiences, we minimize our life stories.
Mm.
You have to honor your story. You have to honor your life experience by sharing it. Because what I do and what I hope to do through my speaking is to be an example to another woman.
Exactly.
If,
Yeah.
if you see the village where I was born,
Yeah.
there was no electricity, no running water. I was born on a grass mat. And for me to do what I've done with my life, I hope that somebody can find inspiration through my story, through the
Exactly.
way
Like,
that I'm using my voice.
exactly. Yeah. Like for me, like last couple of years has been quite challenging, but I'm glad to see myself in a situation now that I I have got over all the things, I actually for myself as a role model for resilience. So
Yes.
I really would like to share my story with others who like, really struggling and just can't see that like hope
Yeah. And
being
you will become that source of hope and inspiration.
yeah.
Oh, thank you, Riz. I'm looking forward to connecting with you.
Yeah.
Who else can I call on? Susanna.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good, thank you. I wanted to say thank you. It was really cool. I really enjoyed listening to you. What I really liked was the way you said about using like your name. Oh, sorry, my dog's just started barking.
It's okay.
Using your name and your culture. I think that was a really good thing because my surname is Beach, so that's Beach. And
Yeah.
I often say, and I live right by the sea. I live in Diamond Harbour, which is right by the sea. So that surname suits me. And
Nice.
I always say, so I won't divorce my husband. Well, if I do, I'll
Keep the name.
surname.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. So it always starts everybody off in good humour. So I liked it when you're doing the same thing with your name. And yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
And have
your
you got an
culture.
idea yet, Susanna?
I have, yeah. I already do like a few little talks and things and go around
Okay.
and talk to people about mindfulness.
Fantastic. So
Thought
that's
that'd be
good.
cool.
So this is just
Yeah.
the next step for you to get it out there in a bigger way.
Yeah, I had a childhood trauma, and so I've been kind of using that to talking about that trauma and
Yes.
using it to get people to get mindful. And especially with what's going on in the world right now, everybody's got trauma. So
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
true. It's a time for us to heal.
It definitely is. Yeah.
Thank you. No, thank you for coming on the call.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Who haven't I talked to? We have is it Neil? How do I say your name?
Hi, Gertrude. Neil.
Hey, how are you?
Good, thanks. I'm just in the sun at the moment, so it's probably better without the video. I
Okay.
got your email only just recently, and with the time zone, I'm basically an hour behind when you started. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I recorded everything, so you can always
good.
watch the replay. Yeah, I'll email you the replay.
Yeah, appreciate it.
What was your biggest take home?
Well, I like what you said in regards to a lot of the conversations or the important stuff still lying in the grave. The interesting thing is I went to a Woodford festival up in north of Brisbane. And I connected with a lady that said the amazing thing was that she was developing the opportunity for elderly people to be able to speak, to tell their stories. And I really clicked on this because it's an understanding that a lot of people at a certain age, once they realize they're going to move on, they have so much important information to pass on
Yes.
through their experiences, and to also, it's a way of releasing that backwash,
Oh,
the
yeah.
pain that people have been through,
Mm.
in releasing that and telling the story. So to me, it was more than one opportunity for this adventure to open up for the elderly people to pass on their experiences, but also to relieve or release their pain from their past. So this is what I think TED Talk is, or TEDx are doing for a lot of people, is expanding a lot of information and sharing what experiences they've gone through. I had the great opportunity doing Speakers Institute down in Sydney and doing a boot camp.
Right.
And if you know Sam,
I know, yes.
yes, and that last day that we did in regards to the, and particularly the statistics, today I would have to say 78% are women that are stepping up.
Yeah.
Big time.
It's so
And,
true.
and where we are at today, what we're promoting is what we call womanhood, divine womanhood. And that's about raising the female energy. Now, I'm basically connected with the ladies as a scout bee. I tend to be able to pick up on the energy of the women that are interested or at that level where they wish to expand and open up a better understanding of what the female energy is about. So this is what I'm passionate about, because what people don't realize is that as a body, we carry both male and female energy.
Yes.
And today, you'll find that a lot of males have a higher percentage of female energy, particularly in the young generation.
Mm-hmm.
And it is moving towards this acknowledgement. Excuse me. This sort of stuff gets me. We're going to raise a level of consciousness, and within that, it is a raising the bar of this female energy, where we're going to be able to bring forth a level of bringing down that male energy, and there will be a merging.
Mm.
In other words, the male energies are going to get their knees chopped.
And it's such it's needed right now for the world to heal.
Oh, yes.
It really is. The male energy is very destructive.
Correct.
It just bulldozes through things, and we need an infusion of strong women to step up and to start using their voices. And I love what you just said in terms of the number of women who are stepping up. I focus on women who have never spoken before. I have 73-year-old, 83-year-old women who come to my coaching and for the first time find their voices, and it's the most beautiful thing to watch. And when a woman can speak, it transcends in her relationships with the man she's with, her relationships at work. It will trickle down to the children, bringing up more empowered young women. Thank you for being on the call, and thank you for your work in this world.
You're welcome. There's a lot more to say, but I'll leave it with you.
Thank you so much. No, we will connect later. Who else can we have? We have Dr. Angels Wilson. What was your biggest take home? Maybe she has gone. Brenda is actually one of my clients. Brenda, just jump on and share the reason why you come to all of my webinars, although I do them differently. And what has been your experience so far?
Yes, I'm just driving at the moment, Gertrude, but I'll be quick.
Okay.
Today's takeaway was really just ensuring that you've got the platforms. I've been active since I started working with you, so it's really good to know that for my TED application, I can continue to provide those examples of my engagements. and just to continue to use my message, to weave my message in that I want to make for my TED application, to showcase that I've already actually been out there and talking about it, and it's part of the passion. So yeah, really just I learn something new every time, Gertrude, and I love it. Thank you.
Thanks for being on the call, Brenda. And we'll finish off with our gentleman from Turkey, Femi. Now, Femi and I met about 5 minutes before this webinar started. He sent me a message on LinkedIn. And this is an important thing for all of you, and how to optimize your LinkedIn profiles. On LinkedIn, you have to make sure you use the bio section to say who you are and what you do. I've recently revamped my LinkedIn profile. I put that I coach people to speak on TED, and I can tell you on a daily basis, I get 10 to 15 people. I actually have a picture of me speaking on the 3 TED events. People go and watch my TED talk first, and then they come to me as clients. So tell us, what is the biggest thing that you took away, and which TED talk did you watch, Femi?
Okay, good morning again. It's still very early in Istanbul. So I was actually, I watched a program on Netflix. So I was watching one of the MBA coaches, and he was talking about how Ubuntu, changed his entire career, and how he was able to use Ubuntu to change a lot of things. So what I did was to go on Google to search for videos on Ubuntu, and then I found your talk, and I watched it. But it goes beyond just Ubuntu, the passion with which you gave the speech, and it actually moved me a lot. So I'm only active on LinkedIn. So I just went on LinkedIn to search your name, and I was happy to find you. And like you said, we connected 5 minutes ago.
Yes.
Now more than 5 minutes, or 5 minutes before the webinar. The good thing is I was really inspired with one statement you made, where you said it doesn't matter the size of the audience. So whether we are 7 people, it's 5 people, or it's 1,000 people, you keep the same level of enthusiasm, you keep the same level of delivery of the speech. And this is really important. So it shows that you're teaching us to become, or to be something, and not just trying to be like something. So which is very important for me. At the moment, I wouldn't say I'm planning to be on TED Talk, but I would be really glad to start the journey. And this is also very important for me. Also considering the fact that I'm also from Africa, like you are, and then my current job takes me down to Africa and try to find opportunities for my business. But beyond that, I also see a lot of opportunities to take a lot of people out of poverty, out of difficult situations in which they have found themselves. And I would be willing to connect with you more on this and learn how I could do it.
That sounds awesome. You've got my booking link, so please just, yes, I think you've already booked, so we can catch up next week.
Yes.
So now let me explain to everybody how I work. I have 3 speaking products or coaching products. The first one is just strictly the speaking, where it's self-paced, it's a video course. I do help you with the video course in that we do an audit right at the beginning. We brainstorm your ideas. You use the videos to create the video that you want to pitch, and you get contact with me via email. The next level up is where I coach people in a group. And in the group setting, you get access to me every 2 weeks. And you can email me every single week with questions, with videos you want me to critique. I respond with video emails, and I kind of, again, guide you through. In the second package, I make sure that you end up publishing a book as well. So it's both the coaching to speak and to publish a book. My third level of coaching is now the level where you are saying, I want to do this as a career. How can I do it? Help me get there. This is the pricing model, and I will email this to you as well so that you get an idea of how much I charge. The first one is $3,000, $2,997, and you're getting 34 videos, 34 hours worth of videos in this course, plus the workbook and some bonuses. The second one is $4,997. That's my gold package where I'm coaching you in a group. And the third one is $10,000. And this is my Clear Path coaching, where somebody comes to me and says, look, I want to make 100,000 a year. How can I make it? I want to make 500,000 a year. How can I do it? And I will really break it down. It's a 6-month program. All of my programs are 6 months. So I'm going to put my booking link in the chat. If you would like to make a booking so we can connect, I give people a 1-hour free session where we talk about your idea. We talk about what you're trying to achieve, how I could possibly work with you and help you. So this is the booking link. Just click on it and let's connect. Also make sure that before we connect, fill in the form that was emailed out with the Zoom link so that I can get an essence of who you are before we connect. So if anybody is interested and wants a call, just type in yes in the chat, and then we will get hold of you as soon as this event is over. I really thank all of you for taking the time to come out. I hope it was worth your while to use your Sunday or Saturday evening to be with me. Yeah, let's see how we can help you get there and develop your presentations and make a difference in the world in terms of how you're doing things. Thank you so much for coming on, and I will email the replay to all of you as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank
any
you.
other
Bye-bye.
questions, comments before we go? This is the time. If you want to hang around, we can stick around for a few more minutes if you want to discuss something. I am here.
Could you please mention a bit about the grant, please?
Okay,
If we
so
can-
it's
if we
called the
can get-
COVID Assistance Grant, and I'll email you the link. It works if you have an existing business and if you are you have a registered company. If you don't, you could register for GST, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. What they have done is I think they had a budget of something like 400 million that is being given to New Zealanders. And the one grant pays for everything up to $5,000. The other one pays for 50%. So I'm not sure how many grants have been given already. When you apply, we will find out which one of the grants is still viable. I know the second one is definitely still there, the one where you get 50%. And then the other one is half, is a full $5,000. So you can literally be able to afford my services. My pricing is in US dollars. I have guests from all over the world, so do take that into account as well. So if it's 3,000, I think it ends up being about 4,500. Just go online and do a currency conversion. If we find that you don't qualify for the grant and you still want to get my help, I have a belief that the money is always there. So normally what I do is through the publishing of books, I'll show you what I've done for some of my clients who can't afford or can't qualify for the grant. Through my HerStory Circle organization, the speaking platform I've created, we curate all of the women's stories into a series of anthologies. We brand the cover of every single woman's story like it's her book, and you contribute one chapter, 3,000 to 5,000 words. The end result is that every single book is personalized for every single woman, and it's the starting point for you to write your memoir. We create a page on our website with a prepaid link, and people direct family, friends to buy a copy of their book, and it generates the money that can go towards the coaching. Now, if you sell 30 copies of this book, it sells for $29.99. You make $9,900, sorry. If you sell 100 copies, it's 100 times 30, it's 3,000 US. So the money is already in your story. Does that make sense? Your story itself, through publishing in a memoir, can generate the money that you need to pay for my services. And so, Marie, that goes to your question of the scholarship. That was the way that I found I could help women who couldn't afford to pay for my services. You pay for it in kind, you contribute a chapter, you've got a product that you can sell, and then we continue and help you finish writing a full book. The cover is already designed.
So one chapter would be 3,000 to 5,000 words.
3,000 to 5,000 words, yes.
And how big can the book, should the book be in terms of, I guess it depends.
A second. I'll just send a message to someone who's trying to, I'll call you back, sorry. Not sure who that was. So I'll show you. If I have 10 women in a book,
oh, I see.
It generates 50 to 65,000 words, 250 pages. So it's a pretty chunky book. This is what it looks like. So it's thick.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the 10 other women. You will be on the front. First chapter is yours. And then when you're ready and you finish writing your full book, we just swap out the other woman. Your cover is already ready to go.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is the quickest, fastest way, because we find that just from family, friends, colleagues, selling 100 copies is really easy. And what I'm also trying to do is not only show you how to write a book, but how to sell it. When I started coaching people to write, the writing is the easy part. The challenge comes in how to sell. So I had to weave in this pre-selling idea, showing you how to use social media, how to talk about it. And that's what's really selling the books. Everybody that I coach has to sell 100 copies while I'm coaching them. Anyone can write a book. The challenge comes in how to sell. And if you're not good at writing, I have a process called How to Write a Book in 40 Hours. We interview you telling the story. We transcribe the audio, and our ghostwriters can write the book for you. So we write books at the speed of light. I get women who've been invited to speak at a conference. They come with their idea. We interview them. We show them how to create the chapters, the process to do that. And in 40 hours, we can have a book on Amazon and Kindle, professionally edited for you. So it